Silent Citizen is all about amplifying silent voices and issues. This episode focuses on the topic we all hate to talk about: money. With the cost of living crisis, we can all feel the pinch. Unfortunately, there are many who are suffering in silence as a result. My first guest, Anne-Marie Macken, is a money coach who helps individuals with their financial well-being. Feeling secure about money and having the financial freedom to enjoy life, now and in the future, shouldn't be something to feel guilty about, nor shameful to talk about. I hope this episode gives you more confidence to seek out prosperity and truly value your future.
I am up and running since October 2020, and I still feel like a startup, Emmy. It's still very much a learning curve for someone that went to college, joined a bank, stayed there for 15 years. The entrepreneurial world is probably not a natural fit for me. So I launched the business in October 2020, and so I'm I'll be 4 years this October. But I guess I have gone from, putting everything into it to sort of having it as a sideline and then supporting it with part-time lecturing and other work. But I've just actually got off a call with an intern who's going to come and work with me in June and July, and a US intern. So I'm really excited to just see, okay, how I've told the college I'm not going to go back lecturing in September. So I really want to give it my full energy and attention. I haven't ruled out, potentially if the right part-time opportunity came along, keeping it as a sideline. But no, I want to sort of really focus on it now this summer, and I'm hoping to do a group program starting in June, and just that way make the service more accessible. One-to-one coaching is great, and you can, really get in depth with a person, but it's not accessible to everyone. So doing more group programs is where I want to get to, and working with companies more in terms of employee financial well-being. So you're gaining access to people and supporting people in their workplace at no cost to them and at no time cost to them as well. Well, there's a certain amount, obviously, you go to these things, you might have stuff building up on your desk, but where it's encouraged by the company that, look, we want you to attend these. We know, it can help you to be more productive if you're not worrying about money, or, if you take steps now to secure your future. So yeah, I'm still passionate about democratizing finance and making good quality education and guidance around money available to people, and also highlighting to them that, how they're thinking and their fears and insecurities and worries are unhelpful, and just seeing, are there ways that they can kind of become aware of, actually, there's stuff that I'm thinking about money or that I've picked up from my childhood that is just not helpful. And the waters get muddied then. It's very hard for people who are feeling really insecure and fearful about money to objectively take a step back and look at their financial situation and say, okay, what's going well, what's not going so well, what areas do I need to tackle and address? And the solutions for them won't come if they're all worried and stressed and under pressure. So it's working on both sides of the coin, Emmy. It's the mindset aspect, but also the practical. Okay, now let's look at your financial situation and see, look, what makes sense, and what are the steps you need to take to improve your financial situation.
One of the things I realized, obviously looking at your website, your slogan is value your future.
The slogan probably has two meanings to it, in terms of valuing your future is really important in terms of your external financial situation and planning and, saving and investing for the future. So it definitely has that aspect to it. And as somebody who is not a natural saver or was very sort of easy come, easy go with money, I now appreciate the value of future planning and saving. And I was fortunate that I got a job in Bank of Ireland. They enrolled me into their fantastic pension scheme. But I didn't actively do that, and probably would not have actively done that if I was given the option. So there's that aspect to the slogan in terms of, and I think I thought of saving, and I would have considered saving for a pension as well, as taking money from me now and depriving myself. Instead of, actually, this is money for future Anne-Marie. This is for my future self. Okay. So there's definitely that aspect to the value your future tagline, if you want to call it that. And then
I think it's great.
And then there's also the, you know, the more holistic aspect in terms of valuing your future. And I am somebody who discovered mindfulness, you know, in terms of a formal program about 10 and a half years ago. And you know, I was all about then being in the present moment, and, you know, read things like Eckhart Tolle, Power of Now. And I kind of think, well, how does that then tie in with looking forward and, you know, valuing your future if you're meant to be in the now? And I guess it sort of came to me then that, no, like, you can actually plan mindfully in the now for your future. And also, it's always the future. Do you know what I mean? There's always a new moment. And I guess that's, you know, it's a play on words, but it's another way to think about it, particularly if there's things that aren't going well and you're not happy about, whether with your financial situation or otherwise. There's always a new moment. So the future is always coming. And, you know, so it's that thing of, you know, there's always a new moment, and that we need to value every moment. And I guess where I ended up leaving the bank was in a burnout situation, and feeling very torn between, you know, being a mom of 2 young kids and feeling like I was failing on that, and then also feeling like I was failing in my career. Whereas before, you know, I was all about my career, and, you know, I felt very successful and secure in my career. But I had got to the stage where I was like, I'm not doing either well now. I'm feeling like a failure in both, and I knew I needed to make a change. So again, I was fortunate to get the opportunity to take redundancy from the bank, which gave me a bit of breathing space, then to figure out my next move. I thought that would be a move into the corporate world again, back into the corporate world after a couple of months. Did coaching, a coaching course with Kingstown College, absolutely fell in love with it, and said, I wonder, is there a way I could make a business out of this? But yeah, I didn't want to leave behind all my financial training and experience. And I just thought, wow, money would be such a cool thing to coach people around, because people have so many issues with it. And as I had discovered, it wasn't just about the on paper financial situation or the numbers. You know, there was so much more going on. So that's how I combined the two, and launched Money Coaching Ireland. And yeah, it's given me fantastic flexibility in terms of managing my own time and being able to have time with the kids, and then also using my skills and talent and experience to support other people around what can be a very kind of thorny, muddy issue for lots of us.
Yeah, like I mean, one thing I think we both know is that Irish people generally are not very good at talking about money. So it's yeah, I guess I'm very, very awkward around it. So please don't use me as a guinea pig on this call. But I guess one thing, obviously, which is the cost of living crisis. There's a lot of people who are suffering in silence, you might say,
Yeah.
who really are struggling. In some of the work that you've been doing in the last year, like, what are some of the challenges that you see people are having, and how would you go about solving some of those problems that you see?
So again, I think there's always two aspects to it, Emmy. Like you mentioned, there's suffering in silence, and Irish people not talking about money. Like, there's that shame aspect, and people feel like, oh my God, I'm a failure. I can't tell anyone about this. You know, I just need to struggle on, but it's terrible, and I'm so worried, and I'm so ashamed. How could I be in this situation? So again, that's really unhelpful. And it's when people are equating their financial situation to their own sense of self and their own self-worth. That's not helpful, and they will not be able to get help and emerge from that. So whenever I go in to talk to employees in an organization, I always emphasize it's so important, if you're worried about money, to talk to somebody, whether that's a family member or whether it's your GP, who could then maybe refer you on to a therapist, or whether it's just to pick up the phone to MABS, you know, a free and confidential service, to talk to your lender if you're worried about mortgage arrears or personal debt arrears. So take that shame aspect out of it. And I know that can be easier said than done, but if you allow yourself to be consumed and to think, oh my God, I'm a failure, perhaps it's as a mother or a father in terms of providing for your kids, and you're layering all this extra stuff on top of your challenging financial situation, you're not going to have the energy or the headspace to find solutions, to seek the help that you need that is out there. So that's what I think is just so important. And particularly, you know, if something escalates and then you're not sleeping, and, you know, it's a whole
vicious cycle.
The absolute vicious cycle. Yeah. So it's really important that people, as much as they can, maintain their well-being and their sense of value in themselves. Like, it is challenging out there for lots of reasons. You know, as you said, the costs have gone extremely high, and they've hit people on lower incomes far worse, because obviously a higher proportion of people on lower incomes, their income goes on food and, you know, utility bills. So when they go up, and particularly if people also had a mortgage on a variable rate, and they're being hit on all sides, you know, there's very little room for maneuver, versus somebody on a larger income. And, you know, okay, so now they have less discretionary spend. So it is tough, and it has been tough. So I guess keeping yourself well and your mindset right is so important. And then reaching out for help. And, like, you know, there is absolutely no shame on it. And I have come across people, you know, who have, say, family members that would be more than happy to help, but they don't want to ask, or, you know, they're afraid to ask. And I guess my view is, there's times in life when you need support, and there's times in life when you're in a position to give support. So, you know, and again, it's not saying there's not one size fits all. People need to decide for themselves what the right route is for them. You know, whether it's to seek help from a friend or family member, or go to MABS, or look at debt restructuring, but to not allow, you know, feelings of shame to get in the way of looking for that help. And I guess then things, Emmy, like what's helped me and helped my clients is, you know, people can get very down and depressed that they maybe weren't able to do the things they used to do, or, you know, that they see their friends or people in, you know, neighbors doing, and saying, oh, well, I can't afford to, you know, go on holidays, or go there, or go to this show or concert, or whatever it might be. And, you know, oh, things are really bad, and, you know, and if you sort of change that around to, you know what, I'm choosing not to go on that big holiday this year, because it's going to put me under too much pressure financially if I do, you know. And that whole thing of, you know, maybe I'll be able to go there one day, but right now it's not a good choice, and I'm choosing not to do that, or I'm choosing not to have the expensive handbag, or whatever the thing is, rather than I can't afford it, and, you know, this is terrible and my life is crap. And, you know, it's just saying, look, I'm making these choices now. And if people want to do something, you know, they will find a way. Like, you know, you might, if it's the fact that you want to travel, you might do it in a different way, maybe by staying with people that you know abroad, or, you know, working for part of it. So, yeah, people can get just very down with the fact that they can't afford this or they can't afford that. But again, if you keep yourself in the right mentality, it doesn't feel like deprivation or sacrifice. It feels like, you know what, I'm just not going to book that, you know, expensive hotel for 2 weeks, and I'm choosing not to. And that's actually benefiting my financial security and my financial freedom. But, you know, maybe there is a way I can go here, or what is it that I really want? What do I enjoy doing? So yeah, it's just,
So it's kind of small compromises that you can make
yeah,
to
yeah.
well, I don't want to say to seem like you're living this big lifestyle, but almost that, you know, you shouldn't be locked in to this mindset
Yeah.
that
And like I've coached people, Emmy, who have sort of withdrawn from their friends because they weren't, they didn't have the finances, you know, and they were thinking, God, I'm going to be in a scenario where we've gone to an expensive restaurant and, you know, the guys are ordering like, you know, expensive bottles of champagne and wine, and then my budget is blown for the week. So there's sort of that withdrawal or shame, but it's then encouraging people to think, well, what could you do with your friends that isn't going to cost a load of money? Well, actually, I used to really enjoy hiking and maybe I could arrange that. And, you know, we can take the dogs. And so I started putting up some posts about things that are free, you know, free in Ireland. And there's loads of things you can do that don't have to cost a fortune. And it's, again, having that imagination to think, okay, what can I do? You know, and that you don't have to withdraw from your friends, and that encouraging people as well to explain to their friends that actually, you know what, I can't go on that skiing holiday. My finances, just in terms of where they're at the minute. But I'd love to meet you. You know, can we arrange something here? Can we go up to the Dublin Mountains or Wicklow Mountains, or go for a swim, or whatever your thing is, a walk in the park? Not to allow it to impact all aspects of your life.
I obviously, this is not something I share publicly because I think there's shame associated with it. But last year, this time a year ago, I joined an incredible climate startup. Within 8 weeks of joining, it had gone into administration, and I never got paid a salary.
Oh.
And I had just moved into an apartment in London, and as you know, London is not a very cheap place.
More expensive than Dublin, and that's saying something.
It was during the summer of all times, where London is meant to be this incredible place where you get to go out and visit and do these extraordinary things. But I didn't go out and meet certain people because of the money, and it was really restrictive. And I found obviously myself kind of self-insulating and staying at home, and I guess your mental health suffers as a result of it.
And London can be a big lonely city, you know, particularly when it's new to you. And look, this isn't about telling people, oh, you know what, Emmy, you should have just got out there and, you know, positive mental attitude. Like, that was a tough experience, and it's important to acknowledge that and to go, yeah, actually I am feeling, and I'm sure you had a range of emotions, from like fear, I'm in this big city with no money, to anger in terms of how you were misled.
Huge.
And and it's so important. It's not like we must not feel negative emotions or think negative thoughts. Like, it's that's what we do, and we can't bury stuff. It'll come out in other ways, you know, if you do. So yeah, like, it's okay to feel those things, but it's, I guess, you know, if you can acknowledge them and allow them to pass through, they will pass through, and you will find a solution. And that may be, okay, I'm going to come back to Dublin, or but you know, again, like that. And funny, we were talking, I climbed Kilpatrick there on Sunday with my uncle and another friend and my sister, and we were talking about immigrants. Like, he emigrated to London in the 80s, came out of school, no jobs, and the people that emigrated, and they, you know, things didn't work out for them, and they maybe became alcoholics, or, you know, just had a really tough time, whether it was in London or in New York or whatever city they emigrated to. And that, you know, but they didn't want to tell anyone. So they had to give the impression to everyone at home, oh, they were doing really well, and they'd, you know, try and send home money, and the shame of, you know, so, like, again, that's just putting another layer of it, that you're having to live this lie and pretend, oh yeah, no, it's all going crazy. Like, yeah, no, this went wrong. Now, okay, what are my options now? And, you know, where do I need help? Can I get help? What can I do? Like, what's within my control? But obviously allowing yourself that, yeah, this was crap and hard, and to feel those emotions, but then just try and and think, right, given that's happened, what can I now do?
We're often not taught how to use our money. And I came across your USE, so use, it stands for use. Could you tell me a little bit about what that framework that you have?
Yeah, so again, this is another one of my the value your future, I think, is on my logo. And then this is another tagline that I came up with when I was thinking about what am I about, what's my business about. So it's bringing ease to how people understand, spend, and earn money, how they use money. And the three words: understand, spend, and earn. And I think that encapsulates a lot of what I do. And it's for people to be able to take that step back and look at money and say, okay, yeah, it is this medium of exchange that we all need, but it's not oxygen, and it is just a tool. Man invented money so that we could easily exchange goods and services. And when you sort of create that bit of space between you and money, it's more helpful then to make better decisions in terms of, okay, now I've hit a challenge. What do I do now? What skills do I have? What resources do I have? Who can I ask for help? So it's, again, being able to look at your financial situation objectively. And then the spending and earning piece, like, obviously people say, oh, but there's like, there's saving and there's different things, but it all comes from, how much you spend and earn. Then that's how it feeds into how you manage your debt, how much you save, how much you plan for the future, etc. So I think those three little words, which just happen to make the acronym use, kind of encapsulates the work that I'm doing with people around money, and the benefits of being able to look at it more objectively and say, yeah, like, we do need it and we all have to make a living. But as I heard another coach say, it's not oxygen. Like, people think, oh my God, like, I can't live, I've lost my job, I've gone into debt, I can't live, I can't breathe. It's not oxygen. Like, just, there will be a solution. There are supports out there for people. There are solutions to every financial problem. And it's really important that people just, go, okay, I've hit a challenge. What can I now do?
We need Anne-Marie, like, on an app somewhere so we can
when you go into panic mode and you're like, no, but again, just noticing that and not and being conscious of that and aware of that is helpful. Oh, I've gone into panic, I've gone into stress, worry. Okay, now's maybe not the time to replan my life and my career, reboot my career. I need to just, go for a walk, go for a jog, listen to music, whatever is your thing. I'm going to come back around to this. I'm going to be okay. This will pass, and just soothing yourself like that before you try and, like, solve the problem from a state of heightened worry and panic and stress, where no good solutions are going to come out of it.
So something happened to me. It was my first kind of real job, and unfortunately I lost that job, and I was made redundant, and I had spent the next 7 months or 6 months or so after that trying to find the next job. And one of the things that occurred to me was, if you go looking for the solution rather than sticking to worrying about the problem, you can find it, but you have to be rigorous about it. You need to be, like, ruthless in trying to find the solution for yourself. And unfortunately I was able to find an interim solution. It wasn't going to be the biggest paying job. It was like a small role somewhere, but it got me by, and that was, I guess, the main thing. And I learned a huge amount from that experience. As negative as it was, I do think it's made me rethink and reframe how I look at money, in the sense that, no, I've got 4 or 5 years experience behind me. I've generated a skill set that can be applied elsewhere. So it's almost like I had to brainwash myself into thinking, no, you're not in debt. You're going to be okay. But it is that kind of self-talk or conversation with yourself. Now, obviously, I had rent to pay, but I luckily didn't have a family or a mortgage as such, but rent to pay nevertheless. But I think my mindset definitely changed. It was like, no, I will get money. It's like, this has happened before. It can happen again and again and again and again. So I guess now, like, I know 10 years later, find myself, redundant and trying to get back up again.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're knocked down, but you have to get back up again.
Absolutely.
That's the lesson for me. Not easy, of course.
No. And like, that's the experience of a lot of people now, in terms of, before there were far more jobs for life and much greater job security than there is now. But barring you join the public service, you're not going to have that job for life, and there's going to be changes and redundancies, and it's again, it's not taking your sense of security from the job. It's taking your sense of security from yourself and your own skills and what you can contribute. And exactly that, saying, okay, I've done 4 or 5 years here. What have I done? What skills have I gained? And how can I now, explain that to other people in terms of how it's going to benefit them and their organization. So, yeah, and if you think about it, like when somebody does lose a job, and I work with an organization called Job Care, I come in and do some training for them and speaking for them. So working with job seekers. And if you think about it, like if you're in that, oh my God, I've lost my job. Why did they get rid of me? I thought I was good at my job now. And you've lost your sense of confidence, and, you're not seeing all the skills and strengths that you have. And then you're going for interviews and you're getting rejected. And then that's confirming, again, it's that vicious cycle again, versus, okay, that's happened. That was difficult. What did I learn? Where can I now go? And always just to remember and tell yourself, in the midst of a difficult situation, something good will come out of it. Like you're saying, you're looking back now and saying it really helped in terms of looking at your skill set and, going through that experience and coming out the other side. It's like, yeah, actually, I learned a lot. And the worst things that happen to us in our lives, it might not be straight away, but eventually we look back and go, actually, yeah, you know what, there was a gift in that. And there was something that I learned or put me on a different path. And, you can even sometimes be thankful for it. But I fully accept, in the moment, it can be very hard, and you have to allow yourself, you got
to cry in the pillow.
Absolutely.
Cry in the pillow.
Yeah.
So I think my first sense of financial security, the topic of finance and security, came up when I was quite young. And I guess you could say, I won't go into the details of it, but a single mother trying to gain some sort of support from the other parent, and that was kind of the journey my family was on, and certainly, like, my mum worked very hard to make sure she could provide for us. So I always saw that as a young kid, but then years later, unfortunately, my parents, they lost everything. It would have been around, I think, it was after the year 2008. My years are skewed, but it was around that time.
Very, very tough times in Ireland, 2009, 2010 onwards, up to, it lasted for a couple of years. But yeah, people were wiped out, and it was a very hard place to be. Yeah.
And how would you compare that time to, say, now, where we have the cost of living crisis? Would you say it's worse, or...
No,
or just different worse?
No, I wouldn't say it's worse. No, like I was in Bank of Ireland. Okay, I was probably fortunate, even though, like, the banks caused a lot of the problems in Ireland. Most people in the banks kept their jobs, right? So then we were fully employed into debt restructuring and all of that. So I was dealing with developers who, prior to the crash were extremely wealthy individuals on paper, at least. And then, within a couple of months, it was very clear the whole property market had crashed. The value of their assets had collapsed. A lot of them had a lot of land banks that the plan was to build on, which were never going to be built on, back to ag values. So I was dealing with the higher end of the scale. So people that owed anywhere from 20 million up to 100 million and could have had exposures in different banks as well. So involved in the NAMA project and all of that. And I know some people say, oh, they were big. They, if you owed a lot of money, it was the bank's problem. If it was the smaller people that owed not the smaller people, the people who owed less money, like on their 3-bed semi, they were the ones that really suffered. But there was a lot of suffering at that level too. And, it was a huge shock. And, suddenly these people were completely insolvent. And it was tough. And there were suicides, like up to including suicide at the developer level. And then at, I'm sure like people that were in negative equity on their first home as well. So it was really, really grim. And, the banks obviously had to stop lending out. So there was just no flow of money into the economy. If you recall, Brian Lennon was finance minister at the time. He brought in the universal social charges, like all the programs were cut, like funding to the arts and everything was slashed. And it was just a grim place to be. So I think things are better now. The funding has been restored to a lot of things. The government has resources available to it. So I definitely think like the macro situation is better. There are more, our unemployment rate went up to 15%. We're at full employment now still. So, there are opportunities for people, but, I guess, it may take a bit of time for people that are struggling just to find their way to those. But I definitely think we're at a better, we're at a better place now in Ireland. Where I see maybe people might be struggling is that the inequality is growing. So there's people doing extremely well and getting really well paid. And then there's other people facing this cost of living crisis, maybe on social welfare or not much more than social welfare. And they're looking at people with these big lifestyles thinking, life is so hard for me. So that's where I see that it's trying to make sure that there's resources and supports in place for everybody, so people can get a fair share of the economic resources that are out there and get the opportunities they need to be able to progress and move on and, build a satisfying life for themselves.
What do you think is creating that big gap in the middle, that inequality?
So you're asking me why that is, I guess there's more. What do you think is creating it? There's more wealth in the world. Okay. So there is more money out there, and it's ending up in the hands of a small number of people. And I guess other people are looking at that saying, oh, well, they have all that. And how do they have all that? And that's not helpful, because look, they're on their journey and they're doing their thing. And there's people that have made a lot of money from, they've hit on particular like products, like, I'm thinking about the Collison brothers and different people, that have gone into certain areas, or other entrepreneurs, like, they've managed to build a company and sell it for a lot of money, and gone on to the next project. And I guess looking at that and saying, oh, it's not fair that they all have that, and then, I'm here struggling, and wasting your energy on that is not going to be helpful to you. And I guess it's, they have all that money, but you know what? They might actually be totally miserable too. So it's just one aspect of their life and what they're doing. I'm not saying the Colsons, I'm sure they are very passionate about what they're doing, and more power for them. But we know there's a lot of really wealthy people, in particular celebrities, who are totally miserable. So it's not the be all and end all. But it is not, of course, it's nice to be financially secure and have financial freedom to be able to make choices. But it's, if you spend your time going, oh, well, they have that and they've that, and it's so hard for me, and that's all, you're always complaining, and you're, giving out about everything, it's going to be hard for you to improve your financial situation if that's what you want to do. And I guess what's helpful is kind of coming back to, look, what is really important to me? What do I enjoy? Can I, can I bring more of that into my life? And if there is a situation in terms of financial distress, then absolutely that needs action, whether you need, again, going back to asking for the help and resolving the problem and not allowing it to fester. But again, that it's kind of keeping yourself well and aware and going, yeah, how's my life going? Am I doing the things that I want to be doing? Am I living true to myself and my values? Or actually, no, I'm chasing something that I don't even want, or I'm spending my time grumbling or complaining about the state of things, but not actually doing anything about it. That's, yeah.
Yeah, like I think 2023, I obviously don't have the specific numbers, but when I would arrive onto LinkedIn, I would just see a flurry of people on my newsfeed who've lost their jobs, through email or whatnot, or they've been in this tech role for 21 years and they've lost their jobs. And it really does send shockwaves, I think, within people's psyches and I guess through everything. But I do think that people are reflecting more on their values and what they really need to prioritize. And there isn't this, I think, I would like to think, the same sense of materialism. Like there's a reconnection, like, with going outside and getting into nature and all those things that really don't cost a lot of money to do, unless you get like your €4 coffee. Depends on what coffee it is, of course.
Occasionally, that's okay. I'll allow that on occasion. Yeah.
Little flat white. That's like bloody €3 or something.
If you're lucky, and the rest.
I know. I think it's 3 something now, but I always judge the economy by
price of coffee.
The price of my coffee.
And if you get oat milk or coconut milk, you can add another 50 or 60 cent onto it.
Do you know what? It's like I walk into Butler's and they charge me like, I don't know, it could be 20 cent, 30 cent for soy milk. It's like, it's not
more
my
than
problem.
that.
I'm lactose intolerant.
It's about, I'd say you were charged about 60 cent. Yeah.
I'm penalised for being lactose intolerant. One of the things I'm trying to do with my parents is actually try to change their mindsets around money. So my mum now, I kind of regret it a little bit, because I'll walk into a room and she's got her hands up in the air and she's like, money is raining down upon me, and she's manifesting. Like, she's really big into manifesting now. So I wanted to ask you, do you manifest? Is that something that works?
It works for some, okay, but this is the key to it. People can be saying that, but inside they're like, oh, I really hope it comes. I really don't think it is, but I'm gonna, and so that doesn't work, clearly, because you're not feeling or expecting the abundance. But so I guess the words, again, it can be like that, toxic positivity, where you're like, I'm just going to say the positive words and think the positive things and everything will be fine. But inside, you're actually so fearful, then that's you're probably doing more damage. But if you've hit on something that actually, it feels really good when I say this, and, it feels true to me, then absolutely, that can be helpful. Because again, it's, as you said earlier, like, money is an energy, and it's putting you in a good place to be able to spot, opportunities and take decisions that are going to benefit you and your financial situation. So I guess, like, where I stand on it all, it is like that people are aware of what they're saying and what they're thinking and doing. And if there's something there that's helpful, like a little phrase or a mantra or whatever it may be, and actually, that feels really good when I say that, and it's, I feel it in here, it's not just words, then absolutely go for it. And that can work for people. What I have found is sometimes people embrace that in a big way, and they, it's going great. And, if I was coaching a business, I was saying, and I got this and that, and then something goes wrong, and it's like, back to the old. because it was quite superficial, you know. So really, it's to feel that security right inside here that, you know what, no matter what happens, I'll be okay. I'll be able to come to a solution, rather than sort of wanting the financial situation to be a certain way and then I'll take my security from there. Because if that goes, and as we all know, that can go like that and things can change like that, then, you know, you're totally exposed. Whereas when it's coming from a deep place inside, that sense of security and freedom, no matter what happens in your financial situation, you'll be able to adjust and say, okay, this has happened. What do I now need to do? How do I now move forward? How do I deal with this?
So it'll work for her, but only if she really, truly believes in it. That's what you're saying.
In short,
but also...
Yeah.
But also,
if she feels good, and you know, if it's something that she's enjoying and it feels good to her, and she's not kind of going, okay, and then I check in a week, okay, nothing's happened, that's a load of crap, because that's what people do too. It didn't work, you know. So it's like, you're not keeping score. You're like, this just feels good, and let's see, you know, what happens out of it, as opposed to going, I'm going to really go for this for a month, but if nothing's changed, then I'm going to put it in the bin because it's a load of crap.
Oh, she's hilarious. Like, I don't know if the neighbors appreciate it too much, because generally it's you know, the windows open, the doors open. It's like, do you want to just block that? Because I think they can hear you.
Brilliant. Let her away. If she's having fun, let her do it.
My mum's an artist, so hours later she did get an order, and she's like, look, it's working. It's working. So yeah, we will keep it up. I mean, if that's all it takes, fantastic.
But yeah, no, you also have to then do the work, do the thing. But yeah, I think when you're in that better, you know, outlook, and you're more optimistic, and you're giving out a better energy, more opportunities come along for to improve your financial situation. Yeah, absolutely.
Our main trainer on the Start Your Own Business course, and he actually talked about how money is energy, and you need to be careful with your money. You want to be kind to your money.
Yeah,
you know, it's like all these things that I never kind of
would come out of the mouth of a finance trainer.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I just thought it was an incredible different mindset and approach to the topic of money. But the other big thing that came out of that conversation or topic was there was a huge debate, almost an argument. I'm surprised chairs weren't thrown, but it was all about mortgages. He was like, do not get a mortgage. Don't get a mortgage.
Right.
It was very interesting to hear that perspective. And then you had somebody else who was also on the course, like, sure. No, you work 20 years, you pay off your mortgage, you've got yourself an asset, and that's it. And it was really interesting to kind of watch this argument unfold. What would you say to people who are, you know, looking for a home or trying to buy a home these days?
Yeah, well, I think that's interesting what that trainer said, like, don't get a mortgage. There is no one size fits all. Okay, so it's for people themselves to decide, is buying a home and getting a mortgage right for me? And for a lot of people, it will be right. And like, the government is actively supporting home ownership, right? It's challenging for people to get their own home because of how expensive houses are. So there is a massive affordability issue, but their policy is to support people to get homes. Yeah, so there's different schemes out there in terms of the Help to Buy scheme and other local authority schemes to try and bridge that gap and support people to get homes. Now, in saying that, and there are studies to back it up, that people with homes, they have greater levels of financial well-being, okay? And it's going back to what that other person on the course was saying. If you think about it, and you get your mortgage at a relatively young age and you have it paid off by 65, then you're sailing into retirement with a place to live and not having to pay rent. Okay, so that is, and again, I'd be careful about thinking about the home as an asset, and this was kind of dealt with in a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad, because there are expenses that come with owning a home in terms of kitting it out and repairs and property taxes and all of that. So I wouldn't think of it as an asset, but it's a place to live, and it can prove much more affordable and secure than renting. And then you have the added bonus of, if you keep paying your mortgage, and by the end of the term you own it debt free, you then have a place to live without having to pay rent in retirement, which could be challenging, particularly if you were, trying to live off the contributory state pension. And we could have another call on that issue, but because people are living so much longer. And then I guess there is an asset then that can get handed down to children, an unencumbered home to help the next generation at some point. So I think there's lots of benefits to owning a home. And I wouldn't say to people, don't get a mortgage. It is more challenging for business owners to get a mortgage, by the way, because your income is not as secure as a PAYE worker, but it can be beneficial to your financial well-being. And I guess people need to look at their own situation and say, like, is it for me? Is home ownership for me? What would I be gaining? What would I be losing? But again, it's making sure you're not muddying the water with, say, an experience you had in your childhood where you're just fearful of all things debt. That actually, no, I'm deciding that home ownership isn't for me, but for good reasons, as opposed to just fear of, I'm going to end up on the streets and not be able to pay back my mortgage, and I'll be under that pressure all my life. It doesn't have to be pressure. And there are people with mortgages that are very glad to be paying them and having that, secure roof over their heads, and knowing that one day, like, the mortgage will be gone and I'll own this.
Now this, I did not think I'd bring this up, but one of the things I've seen recently is now, obviously this is only a select few people who I've seen on RT News or Nationwide who are experiencing this, but some people who have homes on the coast of Ireland and in certain areas where there's that erosion. Yeah. And it's happening obviously at an increasing rate, and obviously their homes are at risk. And I do remember or recall this one lady who had moved out from the inner city to North Dublin, and she's just on the coastline there. And you see pictures and you see all the sand dunes and everything else. And that was a couple of years ago. And now the water is actually coming up to her house.
Yeah. Can't get insurance.
Yeah, and I do think it's one of those unspoken things, and I think people really need to be mindful of when they're purchasing a house. Like, I do see AIB, like they are of I would say Irish banks at least, doing a great job around sustainability. Now, when I say that, maybe it's their marketing that's doing a great job. I'll have to go and dive into the ways of it. But is that something that, like, let's say, the younger generation who are, like, let's say, on that journey to saving and financing, whether it be a business or a house that they need to factor in, is that something that comes up at all in your work, or you're thinking about?
It's not something that I've come up against with specific clients that I've worked with, but absolutely it's something to consider. Like, the worst thing people can do is go get the mortgage, get the house, and then and realize, oh God, I didn't even want this house. I just followed a path because everybody seemed to be getting mortgages and buying a house. So it's a massive commitment. You'll need to have your deposit, and then you're taking on this debt for probably 30 years and paying a lot of interest. So it's not something to go into lightly. And also then the choice about the house that you buy, like, that is a big decision, and people will need to factor those things in. There's certain locations that in the future, it may not be sustainable to live there. So yeah, I mean, that's absolutely something that people need to consider. It's a big decision. And again, all you can do is go, yeah, no, I'm happy. This is the right decision for me. I've done my research. I'm happy with the place. You've gotten obviously your professional surveys and all that done as well before you've signed on the dotted line. But, like, realizing too that we can't control everything, that if something goes wrong with your house, whether it's on the coast or just, away from the coast in the future, that you will, and that, we've seen things with pyrite and all that, like, really terrible things that have happened to homeowners, that look, you'll be able to deal with it if and when it rises. So like, obviously go in with your eyes wide open, but you know, there's obviously there's risk with living. That's just the way it is, isn't it?
I know. I think what's being revealed here is just the amount of fear I have with everything.
You know too much. You know too much about the climate and the environment and all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I actually do know too much, and it is
and it is a big issue.
yeah,
I'm not minimizing it in any which way. But I guess for you, if you're saying, oh, but there's another reason why a mortgage is a really bad idea, you're like, am I just like finding evidence to support my fear that I can never borrow and pay back a mortgage? You know, that's
I know it's because that big kind of debate that happened on the course, it was quite funny because I then, like, you know, raised my hand and just added fuel to the fire, because I said, well, guys, have we thought about artificial intelligence and climate? You know, you probably won't have a job in a couple of years' time. And then two, sure, your house may not even be there. So I just threw a spanner in the works. So I'm just really curious, what type of people come to you for support?
So I am every marketeer's worst nightmare, because they're like, who's your ideal client? And I was like, well, I've worked with this type of person and that type of person. So I have had a variety of people come to me, from business owners to PAYE workers, a variety of male, female, different ages, predominantly female, but some males. So again, like, marketeers be pushing me towards women, you know, and I'm like, just something resisting that. A lot of, I suppose, with people who've had the most impact, I think, from the program, is maybe people that have there's issues there. Yeah, you know, something happened in the past, maybe in their childhood, family business was lost, or the family home was lost, or there was just a real scarcity of money, or they had a subsequent experience where maybe, like the crisis in Ireland, they got into debt, and it was a really tough time that's still hanging around and holding them back, and they're aware of that. So they want to move forward in terms of financial planning and saving and investing, but they also know there's this stuff going on that is probably getting in the way of that. So I guess they're the people who can benefit most from working with me. It's just because it's that dual aspect of, yes, we will work on your external financial situation and look at the numbers and see, you know, what's going on and what can be done, and set, you know, financial goals and priorities, but also we look at that mindset aspect, because if you're only doing the external part, you'll sort of fix this, fix that, and then something come out of the blue and you'll be feeling totally insecure again. Or you'll get to a certain point and say, right, you know, when my pension pot is X, or when I've got this debt paid off, then I'll feel secure. And you'll get there and you don't, and you're like, okay, well, maybe I need a bit more. So it's that people that can appreciate that actually, yeah, there's internal and external stuff that I can work on to support my financial well-being. That's who benefits most.
When someone comes to you, it's not just, okay, we're going to just look at the Excel sheet. This is like, no, we're going to work on the mindset first and foremost. That's incredible.
Yeah. And looking at people's personal values and all of that, and are they making financial decisions based on their values? So it's the dual aspect. It's not for people who, if people just want to look at their financial situation, then a financial advisor or a financial planner. You know, what I do is definitely more holistic than that. And actually, a lot of financial planners are moving into that space too, in terms of looking at people's values and what's important to them. But maybe the added aspect of the coaching around, you know, what limiting beliefs are there and what things are holding them back from feeling secure and free. And I'm going to give another quote before we finish, which I think is just fantastic and so true, is that financial security is a feeling. It's not a number. And in my experience, that has definitely proved true, you know, for me and for my clients.
That's incredible. I think that sums up my experience to date. It's the feeling. Like I couldn't be more worse off right now, but I'm definitely happier.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
insane. It's
And you,
insane.
again, like something's happened, you've made a decision to move back in your parents, and you could allow it, oh my God, I'm such a failure, I'm this age and I'm living at home. Or you can say, you know what? I've decided to move back in my parents, and isn't it fantastic that I can now regroup after that difficult experience and move forward from here, and that I have a roof over my head and I'm able to, on to the next step, on to the next step. So yeah, it's again, it's not just reframing, it's more than reframing. It's knowing that, you know what, like I have value and I have things to contribute, and whatever's going on that financial situation, that's a work in progress, and that can change, you can do things to improve it, and it's only ever a point in time, and it's only ever based on assumptions like that you have this job or that your house is worth X, and like that can all, as we know when we've spoken about, change in an instant.
I think the biggest, lesson I've taken from this is to really not suffer in silence, and that you really do need to seek help.
Yeah.
And it is obviously the hardest step you can take, but definitely a worthwhile one.
Absolutely.
And
talk to somebody.
And yeah, and I guess just to end it with that, how can people talk to you? How do they reach out to you?
So my website is moneycoaching.ie, and that is my Facebook and Instagram handle as well. So at moneycoaching.ie, or they can find me on LinkedIn, Anne-Marie Macken, or Money Coaching Ireland. So yeah, my website is there, and people can book in for a free discovery call through the website to find out about the one-to-one programs. But definitely keep an eye on social media, because I am very close to launching a group program to start on June the 11th. So again, that might be something a bit more accessible price-wise for people. It's going to run 7 weeks from June 11th, Tuesday and Fridays, an hour in Tuesday evenings and an hour on Friday morning, and looking at both. So the Tuesday evenings are going to be more mindset aspects of financial well-being, and then the Friday mornings will be more practical. Okay, this is how pension works, this is the mortgage system in Ireland, this is the taxation system in Ireland, this is what you have to think about in terms of retirement planning, succession planning, and all that. So the dual element. So yeah, I'd love if people came on that, and I'm going to calling it the heart of money. So yeah, that's
amazing. I love that.
I'm excited about it. Yeah.
Love that. Well, Avery, thank you so much.
Thanks.
I will be attaching all that information, obviously, when we publish this episode. But yeah, thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Great to talk to you.